national propaganda radio. A troubled Kansas City grocery store is closed, despite nearly $18 million in city investments. You got a socialist-run, city-owned grocery store, and it fails because of safety issues. You got homeless people running around, and people are robbing the store blind. Does this come up in any of the articles? Not really. Let's get into it. Here we go. Now let's start where I picked up on this story. And that was Mamdani's socialist city-run grocery plan faces backlash from Hochul. I favor free enterprise. The governor of New York is basically stating, I've got a lot of supporters from the grocery industry. They are big donors of mine. A city-run grocery plan won't work all that well because my donors say it won't. Well, you know what I mean? We don't have to go very far to realize a city-run anything that's supposed to be free enterprise isn't going to work. And so I'm reading through here and I'm like, okay, all right. Governor Hochul rejected socialist New York City mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani's plan for taxpayer-funded supermarkets. If you've been living under a rock, Zoran Mamdani could become the next mayor of the city of New York, the largest city in the United States. And he favors basically socialism, and especially grocery stores. That's his plan. Put all the grocery stores under city control. Should work out just fine. Telling a Hamptons crowd, the governor said, I favor free enterprise, okay? Hochul delivered the line Saturday at breakfast meeting, don't really care. Chains could be threatened by proposal, later praised by Hochul's comments, telling the Post, these types of grocery stores just don't work. All right, and they don't. The pushback adds to mounting Democratic resistance to Mamdani's agenda, which critics warned would undercut private grocers and burden taxpayers. Yeah, all right. Governor Cuomo has proposed a plan that was actually thought out to help those with food insecurity, and the answer isn't Soviet-style bread lines. Kansas City just closed their government-run grocery store and eliminated their free buses after wasting millions of taxpayer dollars. Now, I didn't see much of that, of the Kansas City grocery store, but here it is. We're with NPR. Oh, how are they still in business? Didn't they get defunded? They did. Now, was it PBS? That I think PBS is the parent that gives money to NPR, National Propaganda Radio. Why are we funding PBS and NPR? Period. Full stop. Just why? Why isn't Fox? Why doesn't anything moderate get funding from the government? Well, because they don't. Troubled Kansas City grocery store has closed despite nearly $18 million in investments. Let's look through this one. The Sun Fresh at 31st and Prospect Avenue is one of the only grocery stores for miles. Okay. And has been struggling to fill shelves despite 10 years of taxpayer money to renovate it and keep it in business. Now, doesn't it make it sound like, hey, if we could just get more inventory in here, we'd be golden. We're the only grocery store for miles, so clearly there's got to be demand. And they're struggling to fill their shelves. Is there just not enough food in the area? What happens? Despite almost $18 million of dollars in taxpayer investment over the past 10 years, the Sunfresh grocery store in Linwood Shopping Center closed its doors Tuesday. Unfortunately, okay, let's scroll down. Here's the sign. This is posted. This is cryptic, but I like it. I like this sign. Whoever wrote this sign, I'm on board. You're telling us a story without telling us a story. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances beyond our control, we are no longer, at this time, able to serve the residents of this important community. All right. It's always been our dream and passion to provide quality products and services in a safe family environment. I used the word family. Didn't they know that that's off the list? That's no go in woke world. Anyway, safe family environment. We can no longer provide quality products or any products because you're closed, because there's no ability for them to provide services of selling said product in a safe family environment. Why did they put family environment in there? Why do you think they put family environment in there? Isn't that interesting? At this time, unfortunately, we are unable to do that. We can't do it. What about it can't you do? You can't do the service. You don't have the product. You don't have the environment. You don't have public safety. You got a bunch of whacked out homeless people and a bunch of people stealing from the store left and right, to the point at which even the city and a nonprofit hired by the city to run the damn store can't figure out how to keep it open. They keep losing money. They're absolutely going into the tank. And that's what would happen with Mamdani stores. They would just absolutely fold eventually after pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars. It was the only grocery store for a mile. Neighbor Ryan Beal, who said he lives across the street from the property, I'm almost about to cry, he said. This is real life. And you know what? The folks that live in the community, they know what the deal is, and they're like, ugh, gonna have to go way over here to get groceries now. They know that you got a bunch of lunatic homeless people on drugs whacked out of their mind, and those folks are going in and just doing what they do at a grocery store. And then you've got people stealing from the grocery store to the point where it doesn't make sense to keep it open. You've got huge safety and liability issues. And that's what nobody wants to talk about. They're just like, oh yeah, but the loss from the shoplifting isn't enough to make the store close its doors. And that's when you're left with, okay, so then what is? Liability. You got a bunch of nut jobs. You got a bunch of people doing shenanigans running around, and you read what was posted on the door. What does it take to get for a manager to say, hey, this is the sign we're going to post up on our store that we all worked hard to cobble together, to keep together, that the city has funded millions of dollars. The city owns the shopping mall that this store is in. The city basically contracted with a nonprofit to run this damn store, and they still can't keep it open. Why would Mamdani's do any better? They wouldn't. That's the thing. But that is socialism at its finest, which is keep doing the same thing over and over, expect a different result. And when it doesn't happen, you just complain that if we just had more time is the one resource. The other resource is if we just had more money, if they would have just pumped more money into this grocery store, we would have been able to keep it open. Yeah, but then there's that whole thing about capitalism, which is you got to make a profit. And if you don't, you can't have a store going on. The Sun Fresh has been struggling for at least the past year. That's bullshit. The numbers speak otherwise. They've gone from 18,000 people that shop at the grocery store to 2,000. You dropped 16,000 out of 18,000. You mathematicians out there, what percentages that is? 90 something? I'm going out on a limb here. Yeah, it's 90 something. Is it 92%? I'm going to guess. I have no idea. So for the past year, neighbors, store employees, and the nonprofit development company that operated the store blamed crime and homelessness. All right. At least they threw that out there. They blamed crime and homelessness. It's a bad feeling, going down like this, much as we tried to save it, said Beal. Store couldn't survive even though the Kansas City Council pumped $750,000 into the operation in May, much of that to bolster security, because you got a bunch of nut jobs running around. I mean, this isn't that hard to figure out. It's just not. It's not. You don't go from having, I'm sorry. It was 14,000 customers when we acquired the store down to now about 2,000. So they lost 12,000. So let me read that again here. You don't go from having 14,000 customers when we acquired the store down to now 2,000 because of management. That is what the nonprofit Community Builders of Kansas City president and CEO Emmett Pearson Jr. said in the spring. So he is saying, hey, it's not a management issue. We tried our darndest to keep this store open, but because there is just a crap ton of crime, homelessness, shoplifting in the community, the store has to close. And even a nonprofit propped up by the city couldn't keep it open. There was security at the shopping center Tuesday as a smattering of shoppers came to the Sunfresh doors. After a high-profile visit to the center last summer, Kansas City Police Chief Stacey Graves promised more patrols. The department said Tuesday it delivered. Kansas City Police Department worked with city officials and increased patrols in that area to include having officers assigned specifically to the 31st Prospect corridor for 24/7 police presence. But even when you've got that, these homeless people, they don't really care. And you've got a whole bunch of people just raiding the store. They don't really care. There's only so much police presence can do. And if your political leadership has allowed this to happen, because we're not incarcerating anybody, we're not arresting anybody, we're not providing, hey, this is where the boundaries stop. You can't steal from the store. And this isn't a Kansas City problem. This is any big city with urban crime and a grocery store. And homelessness and shoplifting. Homelessness exploded during the pandemic, and shoplifting absolutely did as well, because it was all bets are off, right? All bets are off. Hey, anything goes. Let's get out there and do our best because crime does pay. And it's still paying. Mayor Quentin Lucas said he was disappointed, but believed all the city money was well spent. Oh, see? We fixed up the building. We kept that from becoming yet another decaying structure in the heart of our city. But now with the exodus of a grocery store, what's it going to become? Another decaying structure in the heart of the city. Well, we're hoping to get another grocery store in here. I mean, hope after hope is great. But the bottom line is, this one run by the city, when the city is the landlord, I mean, they cut all the breaks that they could, right, for this grocery store to make it. But even on top of that, couldn't keep it going. So why on earth would another grocery store come in and say, you know what, we're a glutton for punishment. We'd love to take a shot at this. Let's go. Well, maybe there's somebody out there that can make it work somehow. I don't know. Because if you've already got security and you've got police officers running around, what more do you need? You need your political figures to not allow shenanigans to happen en masse. And that's the underlying theme of so much of what I talk about, is you don't have the ability to end homelessness. You don't have the ability to end the whacked out drug addicts lining our streets. You don't have the ability to do that with current policy, especially with policy in the big blue liberal cities, of which Kansas City certainly falls into, right? You don't have that. You do not have that. Lucas said the building is sound and ready for the new tenant. Hey, what happened to the last tenant? Well, they left because of, all the wackadoodles out on the street, just doing their Fetty Bend and, just out of their minds. There have already been some areas of exploration, whether you look at those who are already in that space, nonprofit providers and others, or other nonprofit, they're looking for cheap rent. Hey, how much can we get that for? We don't have people coming into our business, so we'll just, lock it off, and we're not a grocery store. But Community Builders of Kansas City CEO Emmett Pearson said that his organization has worked tirelessly to provide food to the urban core. Community Builders has been vocal for years about our concerns, increasingly unsurmountable challenges of the Kansas City Sunfresh Midtown location. So, it's a specific location. It's an area, right? And you've got leadership that has said, hey, drugs are fine. Drugs are good. We're not really going to crack down on people doing them. We're not going to really crack down on people shoplifting. In fact, we're just going to let them go. Just going to see how this goes. This is going to be a great social experiment. And this happened all across the country. You're not throwing people in the clink anymore for stealing stuff. But the end result is this: closed. closed. Can Kansas City, this was published back in May 2025, can Kansas City keep the struggling grocery store open? It's spent millions trying. So no mention of, hey, this is a socialist grocery store and it is failing, right? It's, can it keep going? We support you, grocery store. And this is one of those there's no inventory pictures, right? You go into your grocery store and you expect those shelves to be lined. Well, what's happening here? Is the product not being delivered from their vendors? No, it's not, because they don't know if they're going to get paid because this bad boy's shutting down, and that's just how that goes. Going to be COD on inventory. Oh, well, we don't have it, so don't bother coming. And then that's how your shelves end up being empty. Otherwise, it's just a staged photo, right? So, Public Task Force met last week to discuss the future of the Linwood Shopping Center and how to spend $750 in emergency city funding intended to keep a troubled grocery store afloat. They're spending millions of dollars on an idea that just doesn't work, given the fact that you're in an area where this is going to be impacted all day long. You got Looney Tune people on drugs, and you got people stealing from the store, and those are horrific, horrific combinations. Seattle and Portland have the biggest drop in tourism in the United States, and the left wants to blame tariffs. But if you think about it, there's other cities out there that are close to Canada that are based on tourism, but they're not 1 and 2 in drops of dollars from tourism. So what's the common denominator? People don't want to go to Seattle for tourism. People don't want to go to Portland for tourism. They're going other places. Now, you're going to have a whole bunch of stats say, yeah, but we had 89 million people come in on the ships. Well, how about last week? We had an absolute nut job on the waterfront in downtown Seattle. Massive, massive tourist area. And there's this interaction between this vet who's in a wheelchair and this other guy who claimed that he wasn't a vet and stolen valor, and just this exchange. We've done a bunch of videos on it. And the guy claiming that the other guy had stolen valor, meaning he wasn't a vet, even though the guy's a vet and in a wheelchair. The guy making the accusations pulls out a gun from his bag and just shoots him about 15 feet away, hits him right in the chest, snaps a rib. Guy's fine. I mean, that kind of thing in our most populated tourist area kind of tells you, hey, it's not just Kansas City. If that's happening in Seattle as well, if that's happening in Portland as well, it's a structural thing, isn't it? So here we are, even back in May. You don't go from having the 14,000 to 2,000. That's because of environment, he said. That's the manager. It's environment. It's environment. Kansas City purchased the Linwood Shopping Center in 2016, spent about $17 million to revitalize it. In 2022, Community Builders of Kansas City, that's the nonprofit, took over operations and management of the grocery store. 2025, a quick 36 months later, and it's done. Just boop, done. The numbers must have been horrific, or there must have been some horrific safety stories that went along with this. Do you remember when the Whole Foods in San Francisco closed down and people were like, good Lord, what happened there? Well, you had some real stories there. I mean, you had stories about people dying in the restrooms, ODing in the restrooms, prostitutes taking their tricks into the restrooms, and oh yeah, they don't care. Whole Foods, they'll accept anybody in their restrooms. You know, you had people stealing from the store. You had lunatics wandering in, just whacked out of their mind on, mental illness and drugs. And they're just wandering around. And management eventually said, we can't stay open. Something terrible is going to happen. We're not willing to take the responsibility of whatever could come down the pike, because who knows what it might be. You got needles, you got stolen goods, you got people selling stolen goods, all of that happening because you're dealing with an element of society that's just basically gone unregulated, unchecked. And that's the wildly addicted to drugs who are also oftentimes mentally not on the same playing field as the rest of us. They are off screaming at the trees. And we end up paying for them because we dumped out all the mental facilities years and years ago because doctors and nurses were having their way with all the patients. And that's literally what we did. We just knee-jerked it and thought, well, they're better off just in the streets than what we got going on here. Well, we're actually coming to find out that that wasn't really the case. We should have kept some of those open. We need to involuntarily commit people that are having issues that we need to keep them not only safe from society, but safe from themselves. Just pulling harebrained stunts because they are literally definition of insanity. And they get out in the streets and they just realize, hey, I can do all the drugs I want. I'm whacked out of my mind. This will be great. And then your grocery store closes. Yeah. People don't want to recognize, all right, my store is being robbed into the ground. My store has massive safety issues because then it is an environmental concern, isn't it? Because you can't blame management. You can't blame management. They're just trying to keep the damn store open, trying to keep stock on the shelves. And as hard as they go to make that happen, ain't happening. Just not happening. And so for a nonprofit to close, and when they come right out and say it's environment, that's when you know. Now let's get back to Mamdani. What would be different with the Mamdani scenario? Government-run grocery stores by the people, for the people. Nothing. Nothing. Exact same damn drill. So why is that a good idea? It's not. It's terrible. But you got a whole bunch of people who aren't making enough money to live in New York City. And they're like, that sounds good. Let's give it a try. What could go wrong? What could happen that this wouldn't be a good idea? Well, no grocery stores. None. Food desert. And that's what you're seeing in so many areas, especially in the lower socioeconomic, where they're just robbing their own stores blind. That's what you got going on. You got a whole bunch of stores closing, and then politicians get all worked up and, they try and convince corporate, please keep our store open. And corporate's looking at the crime stats and they're looking at the, liability of keeping that store open. And they're looking at how much money they're making. If they're not making good money, even if they are making good money, like In-N-Out Burger, where they've got bullets going into the store in Oakland, closed. It's not a hard call. These are not hard calls. So when the management says, hey, you don't go from 14,000 down to 2,000 in a handful of years, it's environment. It's what is allowed in the community. And so folks in that community, if you have repeatedly voted blue, keep doing it. Because I'm sure at some point in time, you'll get all your grocery stores opened and that'll all be great, right? Because that's what Mamdani is going to promise. How do you think that might work out? How is that working out right here? This story right here. Yeah, it's ending up like Meadow Leo. Closed. Gone. And so am I. Love to have you subscribe to hit the notification bell, the like button, all that stuff. And I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining. Talk soon. Bye for now.